If you don't have a flower, please go to out into the foyer, and you may find flowers there that you can use for today's flower communion. It is not by chance that you arrived here today. You have been looking for something larger than yourself. Inside of you, there is a yearning, a calling, a hope for more, a desire for a place of belonging and caring. Through your struggles, someone nurtured you into being, instilling a belief in a shared purpose, a common yet precious resource that belongs to all of us when we share. And so you begin seeking a beloved community, a people that does not put fences around love, a community that holds its arms open to possibilities of love, a heart home to nourish your soul and share your gifts. Welcome home. Welcome to worship. As is our custom, if you'd like to come and light a candle for whatever personal or private reason, please do so while we sit in stillness or join in the singing during the prelude.
We will take one more step till there is peace for us, and everyone will take one more step. One more word. We will say one more.
Please stand in body or in spirit for our chalice lighting and spoken affirmation. Our chalice lighting this morning is Like the First Hint of Green, written by Jennifer McLaughlin. As the first hint of green begins to peek through the barren ground, as that little sprig grows into a healthy stem, as that stem grows into a stalk and forms a bud, as that bud slowly opens with each new day to form a yellow daffodil. Let us be like that first hint of green, renewed by the warmth of the sun's rays and ready to emerge with a new energy, ready to face the day. We light this chalice to bring a glimmer of that warmth into our space. Join me as together we remind ourselves of the affirmation that is a cornerstone of our free faith tradition. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in freedom, and to help one another. You may be seated.
Sorry, I didn't get much sleep. Our opening thought this morning is a story called A Plain and Simple Beauty by Janine K. Grosmere from the book A Lamp in Every Corner. In the city of Prague, in the land of Czechoslovakia, in the year 1923, a time between the two world wars, there was a church. But the building did not look much like a church. Some churches have towers with bells that ring out over the land. Some churches have tall spires that reach to the sky. Some churches have massive doors of carved wood or enormous windows of stained glass with colored light shining through. Some churches have great organs with hundreds of pipes, from small ones like drinking straws to huge ones that touch the ceiling. Some churches have statues or pictures or candles or chalices. This church had none of those things. It had no bells, no spires, no stained glass windows. It had no organ to make beautiful music. It didn't even have a piano. It had no carvings of wood or statues of stone. It had no candles or chalices. It had no flowers. The church did have some things. It had 4 walls and a ceiling and a floor. It had a door and a few windows. It had some hard wooden chairs, but that was all, plain and simple. Except the church also had people who came to it every Sunday, and they were the most important part of the church of all. Because without people, a church, any church, is just a building, no matter how tall its spires or how loud its bells. We have a plain and simple church, the people declared, because we are plain and simple people. We need nothing more. The church also had one other very important thing. It had a minister, and his name was Norbert Čapek. He had been the minister at the Plain and Simple Church for 2 years. Every Sunday, Minister Čapek went to church, and he spoke to the people while they listened, sitting quiet and still in those hard wooden chairs. When he was done speaking, the people talked a little bit among themselves, and then they went home. And that was all. No music, no candles, no food, not even coffee or donuts. Minister Čapek had wondered, sometimes, if there might be something, perhaps just a little bit of something more. He wrote some songs, and the people sang them, but nothing else came to his mind, so the church went on as plain and simple as before. Springtime came to the city of Prague in the land of Czechoslovakia in the year 1923, and Norbert Čapek went for a stroll. The rain had come, the birds were singing, and flowers were blooming all over the land. The world was beautiful. Then an idea came to him, simple and clear, plain as the day. The next Sunday, he asked all the people of the church to bring a flower or a budding branch or even a twig. Each person was to bring one. What kind? They asked. What color? What size? You choose, he said. Each of you choose what you like. And so on the next Sunday, which was the first day of summer, the people came with flowers of all different colors and sizes and kinds. There were yellow daisies and red roses. There were white lilies and blue asters, dark-eyed pansies and green and light green leaves, pink and purple, orange and gold. There were all those colors and more. Flowers filled all the vases, and the church wasn't so plain and simple anymore. Minister Čapek spoke to the people while they listened, sitting quiet and still in those hard wooden chairs. These flowers are like ourselves, he said. Different colors, different shapes, and different sizes, each needing different kinds of care, but each beautiful, each important and special in its own way. When he was done speaking, the people talked a little bit among themselves, and then they each chose a different flower from the vases before they went home, and that was all. And it was beautiful, plain, and simple as the day. As we listen to music in a spirit of meditation, Let us bring our flowers one by one to place in our common bouquet.
Reverend Andrea Abbott wrote a sermon on flower communion. We've edited it somewhat and divided it into 4 parts as readings. This is our first reading. The church that Norbert Čapek founded in Prague was very stripped down. No ministerial vestments or robes, no elaborate ceremonies, hymns, decoration, or formal prayers. It was intended to be an alternative to the churches in which most of the congregation had been raised. Some in the congregation felt that the excessive rituals of the Catholic or Calvinist or Lutheran churches in the area impeded true worship, and so welcomed the austerity of this church. But some missed rituals and felt that more was needed to help in their spiritual lives. And so they approached Čapek, who devised flower communion in response to their requests. Rituals only work when they strike a chord with people. They only become part of a life in the church when they answer need. Many people have devised rituals that never catch fire, never are repeated, because they are mainly decorative and do not help people respond to something beyond themselves. There are also many rituals that have become so worn, repeated mindlessly so many times, that they have no real meaning besides familiarity. We have few rituals in this church, but 2 forms of communion, flower communion and water communion, which have endured and appear to have some staying power. Both involve a form of sharing of our lives with each other. Both involve sharing elements that are both necessary and beautiful, water and flowers. It is easy to see every day of our lives just how necessary water is. A no-brainer, one might say. But flowers? Oh, of course, this is when we talk about pollination and the tricks that flowers have evolved to attract bees and butterflies and other similar helpful critters to ensure that there are more flowers. But somehow, faced with a ravishing peony or a devastatingly beautiful rose, it seems a bit like overkill. It's hard to see it all as practical. Wouldn't a few plain petals and a stamen or 2 have done as well? So perhaps there's more to it than the botanists suggest. And so for this sermon, I've assembled a number of thoughts about flowers, poems and prose from people famous or unknown that may explain why flowers have become so important to humans in expressing their feelings. We use flowers to help us say things that words cannot convey. We decorate our altars with them. And for Buddhists, fresh flowers are an indispensable part of ceremony. They welcome a new baby, celebrate a wedding, or mourn for us at a funeral. Theirs is a higher order of communication, which Philip Palfrey recognizes. The flower offered of itself and eloquently spoke of God in languages of rainbows, perfumes, and secret silence. Ralph Waldo Emerson touches on this eloquence when he says, "The earth laughs in flowers. Today we have created a bouquet of mirth."
Number 63 in your hymnal. Don, up please.
Spring has now unwrapped the flowers, day is fast reviving, life in all her growing powers toward the light is striving. God, the iron touch of cold winter time and seedlings working through the mold, now make up for lost time. Herb and plant that winter long slumbered at their leisure, now be stirring green and strong, find in growth their pleasure. All the world with beauty fills, both lowering and enhancing. Flowers make glee among the hills, set the meadows dancing.
Our second reading. Flowers' ability to represent our deepest thoughts and emotions carries a message far beyond the facts of biology. Something more like Jean Giraudoux says, "The flower is the poetry of reproduction. It is an example of the eternal seductiveness of life." Terry Guillemette explains the magic in this way. Flowers rewrite soil, water, and sunshine into petaled poetry. I think even the most scientifically oriented person must occasionally wonder, as does Robert Brault, even if you think the Big Bang created the stars, don't you wonder who sent the flowers? And who could not agree with Walt Whitman that flowers exceed explanation? A morning glory at my window satisfies me more than the metaphysics of books. Though most plants in some way flower, and though it is possible to think of flowers as simply one stage in the chain of plant development, and hence the production of most of our food, sensible people give in to the mystery, yield to the beauty. Beauty has its own usefulness, is nourishment as essential as any other. As a Chinese proverb says, "When you have only 2 pennies left in the world, buy a loaf of bread with one and a lily with the other." Or, according to Iris Murdoch, her name itself a flower, people from a planet without flowers would think we must be mad with joy the whole time to have such things about us. Perhaps we should be more attentive to them, see them with other eyes, as Emily Dickinson does. The lovely flowers embarrass me. They make me regret I am not a bee. For a bee's eye view of the matter, I'd like to read to you reading number 492 by Carolyn Owen Toll. Follow along if you would like. 492. Fragile and rooted. See a blossom in your mind's eye. Allow it to fill the interior of your imagination. Greater perfection of form in nature cannot be imagined. With inward gaze, absorb each wondrous fluted petal. Slide down its humid surface until you drop as the dew into its velvety core. Immerse your senses in this safe chamber. Such fragile beauty gives impulse to weep. Slowly reverse the journey. As you ascend the shaft toward wider light, turn your imagination around and around to see its many facets. Stored within is the memory of all flowers. Marvel that this creation, while utterly fragile yet undaunted, boldly buds forth, turning resolutely toward the sun. We, too, shimmer with expectation, exuding our own illumination, color, pulse, and scent. Vulnerable still, we venture our lives courageously toward hope and light at once fragile and rooted. For all their fragility, flowers are surprisingly tough, as Tennessee Williams notes. The violets in the mountains have broken the rocks, and they are generous beyond measure. This is Rumi's The Seed Market. Can you find another market like this, where, with your one rose, you can buy hundreds of rose gardens, where for one seed you can get a whole wilderness, for one weak breath, the divine wind?
hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our third reading. Flowers remind us of both our mortality and our immortality, as in these haiku. The first is from Moritaki on the brevity of life, a morning glory, and so today may seem my own life story. And the second from Buson, a short summer night, but in the solemn darkness, one peony bloomed. But in contrast, here is Basho on life's endurance. The temple bell stops, but I still hear the sound coming out of the flowers. Life's beauty, life's promise, all around us, but it takes some attention to hear it. This is what Robert Francis wants when he said, "One flower at a time." I want to hear what it is saying. Are Nikos Kazantzaki's words. If only we knew what the stones and rain and flowers say. Maybe they call us, and we don't hear them. When will people's eyes open? When shall our eyes open to see? What shall we open our arms to embrace everything? When shall we open our arms to embrace everything? Stones, rain, flowers, and men. When we open our ears, our eyes, our arms, when indeed all these reflections on flowers come from many, many sources. Many times in history, from all around the globe. They are from people who have opened themselves to the beauty and miracles of flowers, and they find a response in us as we look at the many ways in which beauty manifests here in these vases. Words for our giving this morning are A Greater Good for Ourselves and Our World by Kayla Parker. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain growth and life in this church and the mission of this congregation. May we give in love and hope.
Our last reading. Norbert Čapek died in Hitler's gas chambers. He didn't leave Czechoslovakia when it fell to the Nazis, though he could have returned to the U.S. to be with his family. Instead, he preached against the Nazis, gave radio talks against the Nazis, until he was captured by them, tortured, and executed. At the low points of human life, in Rwanda, in Serbia, in Germany, there is always someone who wants to weed all the flowers but one from a garden. There are always people who can be made to be afraid of difference, of the unknown. There are always people whose inner torment and hatred finds relief in the torment of others. People who need to blame others for their own feelings of failure and despair. These remedies never work very long. On the one hand, it is never a satisfying remedy, and it never really works to make people feel all right about themselves, and so the situation escalates until it collapses. On the other hand, most people cannot sustain the burden of hatred indefinitely, and somehow, love creeps in like a stray seed. After the Blitz in Great Britain in World War II, people were astonished to find in the bomb sites wildflowers growing, varieties of flowers that had not been seen since the 1600s. Flowers beautiful, fragile, resilient, a rainbow of flowers, a bounty of flowers. Norbert Čapek's choice for a ceremony for us, a ceremony that has spread like wind-blown seeds to every UU congregation. When he created this ceremony, Čapek would never have thought that less than 20 years later, he would give up his life in the defense of the values we still guard. The sayings that we shared today were from a great variety of traditions, each voice making us richer in our own inner life. Each voice adds to our appreciation and understanding. No flower takes away the beauty of another flower.
We now bless our flowers this morning using Norbert Čapek's communion prayer. In the name of Providence, which implants in the seed the future of the tree, and in the hearts of individuals the longing for people living in human love, in the name of the highest, in whom we move and who makes the family what we are, in the name of sages and great religious leaders who sacrificed their lives to hasten the coming of peace and justice. Let us renew our resolution sincerely to be real brothers and sisters, regardless of any kind of bar which estranges one from another. In this holy resolution, may we be strengthened, knowing that we are God's family, that one Spirit, the Spirit of love, unites us, and may we endeavor for a more perfect and more joyful life. Amen, and blessed be. Our next song is number 78 in your hymnal.
Color and fragrance, magic or rhythm, sweet changing music will change us with them. Life within life, inner light gently glowing. Surely you seem to be God's vision growing. Oh, starry heavens, worlds of all splendor, suns without number, new life engender, wheel in a wheel with the light brightly glowing, moving in harmony, God's vision growing, and full of pebbles, high mountain passes, depths of the ocean, dew on the grasses, great things and small, with the light gently glowing, word of the wordless song, God's vision growing, delicate beings, lace wing and sparrow, in field and forest, clover and yarrow, life greeting life with the light brightly glowing, none are too small to be God's vision growing. In human eyes burns the soul of living, illumines altars of loving giving, beating we meet, seeing light brightly glowing, share in a greater life, God's vision sing in harmony, light gently glowing. May we be gratefully God's vision growing.
I invite you to stand in body or spirit for the benediction and extinguishing the chalice. Our closing words this morning were written by Reverend Suzelle Lynch. We are one, we are free, we are here. Much has changed in the 100 years since the first flower ceremony, but our commitment to the values it embodies grows ever stronger as we continue to shape a faith that fiercely and gently calls forth beauty and kinship in easy times and the times of heart-rending challenge. As we Unitarian Universalists work to dismantle our culture of oppression and exclusion, learn to truly embrace a multiplicity of cultural worldviews, and shift our historical center to follow powerful new leadership by those whose voices have been suppressed for too long. We make real the bold vision of Norbert and Maja Čapek and the flower ceremony. Their spirit, encourage, and commit live on in us. May we ever remember our continuity with those who struggled generation after generation for peace and justice and liberty. As we share our flowers, may we always remember the abiding beauty that calls us together and calls us to ever greater justice and ever greater love. After we extinguish our chalice, and as the postlude music plays, I invite you to come and take a flower. Take a flower that is not the one you brought. Take it home with you. Enjoy its beauty, and as you do, think of the variety of people who enrich our lives and make our world more interesting. Think of the beauty around us and give thanks. Please join me in saying the words to extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace to be peace.
Simple, 'tis the gift to be free, 'tis the gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, we'll be in the valley of love and delight. 'Tis the gift to be gentle, 'tis the gift to be fair, 'tis the gift to wake and breathe the morning air, to walk every day in
Oh,
the
that,
path
yeah,
that we
it's,
choose. 'Tis a gift we
Yes, there are those, there are some that are all just green, and there's some.
'Tis the gift to be knowing, 'tis the gift to be kind, 'tis the gift to wait and hear another's mind. That when we speak our feelings, it may come out true. 'Tis a gift
Yes,
for
and that will grow.
and a gift
That's one of the
for
reasons I
you.
brought it.
'Tis the gift to be knowing, 'tis the best gift of all, like a warm spring rain, bringing beauty when it
Don't
falls.
forget to get your
And when
flower.
we use this gift, we may come to believe 'tis better to give than it is to receive. receive. When true simplicity is gained, to bow and to bend, we will not be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turn